Hello, once again, Jose Rodriguez here. Someone asked me about non-standard inks on their printer. And I thought, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, there are some edible type inks. In other words, they're used in the cake industry. You have special media that you can print on that, and then you lay that on top of the frosting or whatever, the fondant, and then you actually transfer the image. Picture of the child on his birthday cake. Sure, you can eat that. They're non-toxic dyes, but they are dyes, and they can probably be used on an Epson printer. The Epson printers are the most universally compatible printers for all sorts of specialty type dyes. Please do not ever attempt that with a Canon printer. Just don't even consider it. It's just not going to work. The type of printhead that Canon printers utilize, thermally operated printheads, just simply cannot handle anything but photo inks, the inks that they are designed for. Now, again, sublimation inks, vinyl inks, solvent-based inks. A lot of these inks are used in the shirt or t-shirt printing industry. Okay, Canon cannot handle that. Don't even consider it. I have some vinyl material right here that I've been meaning to use. I need to mount it on my P800. This material, usually vinyl requires solvent inks, but there is some vinyl media that can be printed on with water-based inks, and we will check to see how that works out. Okay, this paper is from Breathing Color, by the way. Again, here I have some canvas. Now, what kind of inks do you need for canvas? Well, usually canvas is matte, so you require pigment-based inks, and use, of course, matte black, so that you get a nice strong contrast on your results and not a very just dark gray looking shadows. So vinyl inks, again, used in the shirt printing industry or direct to garment industry, they are really tough on printheads. Okay, and often what happens is that if a small company that's doing a lot of t-shirt printing by the direct process, in other words, using a printer and not a silk screening process, ends up having to change printheads quite often. Now, you're talking about Epson. Epson is not a user replaceable printhead happy type of printer. You have to know what you're doing. So what often happens is that, for instance, the R2000 was a popular printer for that. So they will take a chassis and convert it to accept the straight path board that you need to mount your t-shirt on. Basically, you just slide it onto the t-shirt and you can feed it from the front and you can print on it. In order to do that, you basically have to remove the outside carcass of the printer, and you end up with what looks like a skeletal rendition of your printer. Well, you buy about 10 or 20 R2000s and you remove the printheads, and you have those printheads on the sidelines waiting for that one to stop printing, to get so clogged up. Remember, you're dealing with vinyl, okay, liquid vinyl, and not just a water soluble ink. Okay, so yeah, don't ever consider doing that on a Canon printer. It just immediately will clog up that printhead and burn it beyond help. Epson printers only. Now, solvent inks. Solvent inks are used for specialty type vinyl. If you ever see a race car with all of the company's logos that support that particular driver, that particular car, those are printed on vinyl using solvent inks. And the reason they do that is because the inks literally will melt into the vinyl, and they are very resistant to sunlight, so they will last a long time. This will not. This will use regular water-based inks, and they cannot withstand being outside. Okay, so don't even think about that. Sure, I can make a banner probably and put it indoors someplace for a few months, and that'll be fine, but it's not meant for outside or outdoor use. All right, so I think that just about covers. Oh, wait a minute, sublimation inks. Oh, that's a whole different printing process. Sublimation technically means going from a solid to a gas, bypassing the liquid phase. And so what happens when you sublimate, and I would encourage you to go back to my sublimation playlist and have a look at that. You're printing on a special paper, you reverse the image, and you use sublimation inks, which are totally different formulation than regular photo inks. You have to dedicate a printer for that process from that point on. You cannot go back to photo inks. So you can buy an EPSON printer that can utilize refillable cartridges and set that printer to only use sublimation inks. You print your transfer, you then have your substrate. It could be just about any material that has been pre-coated with a polyester coat that is made for sublimation transfers. You sandwich that and you put it on a heat press. And again, there are lots of settings and variables that you need to master and nail down before you will get a predictable result. There are no ICC profiles that you can create at home for this process as well. Some companies do provide you ICC profiles, but they have been very carefully made for their own brand of substrate. You must use their inks and you must use their substrate to make it a match, in other words. So what can you do with that? You can sublimate to mugs, you can sublimate to t-shirts, sublimate to mouse pads, all sorts of material, as long as the surface you're sublimating to, in other words, you're turning that solid ink on that transfer paper to a gas, and the gas is permeating and becoming embedded, molecularly bonded, in other words, to the polyester coat, whether it's a mug, whether it's a hat, a plate, whatever the case might be. As long as it can be coated with polyester and you have a press that will actually allow you to transfer to that substrate, then you can sublimate to it. So again, that's a very specialty type process, and one that I have already covered quite a bit on a couple of my playlists. So you're free to go back and take a look at those. But again, specialty inks usually means only for EPSON printers, never for Canon. So don't even consider it. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. All right, that is it for now. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And until the next time, as always, happy printing, everybody, and bye-bye.